I find tea fascinating because it's something that we have in common with the world of the 18th century. And yet, what we have discovered through our work researching the history of tea and the way in which tea came to conquer Britain in the 18th century was that it was a very unfamiliar experience. It was brand new, it was exotic, it was exciting in ways that I don't think we share today.
So tea was discovered by Britain in the 1650s alongside a range of other hot drinks which are also still really familiar to us, and they were introduced as medical remedies at the beginning, and of course they are a drug, they all contain caffeine. In many ways we could think that tea habituated British drinkers to itself rather than the other way around.
At the start of the 18th century, tea was a really expensive and exclusive drink. Only a few people knew about it. People who were in the social elite around the court and in the fashionable circles of London. But by the end of the 18th century, almost every household in England, right down to the poorest cottages, were consuming tea on a weekly basis. And so tea was really the first commodity to find a mass market in Britain, the first commodity that was coming from overseas.
About 2/3 of the way through researching this book, Richard came to the Natural History Museum and saw some pressed tea plants that were some 300 years old that he had read references to in the manuscripts and had really entertained very little hope of being able to track down. And in the meantime, the curators here had found something else that they wanted to show us, and that really made our jaws drop. It was a box containing real manufactured tea from 300 years ago.
The tea we drink today in Britain is very, very different from the tea that Britons fell in love with in the 18th century. In the 18th century, the tea that people drank was largely green tea and later oolong tea, nothing like the heavily oxidised, tanninated black tea that we drink today. That black tea is really a legacy of British tea production in colonial India in the 19th century. And of course, no one in 18th century Britain had a tea bag, and about 95% of the tea we drink in Britain today is manufactured using tea bags.
There's some evidence recently of tea reacquiring this state of being an elite product. There are certainly lots of shops opening in London selling teas that are made in small quantity by artisanal producers, often in China. Having said that, do I see the popular consumption of tea being anything different from the current consumption of heavily oxidized black tea in tea bags? No, I don't see that. And if I'm perfectly honest, that's the kind of tea that I drink most commonly in my home.